In the early 90s, after Nelson Mandela was freed from prison, I had the opportunity to start working in South Africa. And I learned the word, the proverb, Ubuntu. Ubuntu means I am because we are. We are because I am. So what I realized once I learned that proverb was, with all the various definitions of diversity and inclusion that I have read on websites of companies all over the world, that truly that one word, when you look at the translation in English, sums up what diversity and inclusion is and why it's important. Who was that next main character? The Tin Man, yes. Well, the Tin Man was rigid. And here's why I think he was rigid. You see, the Tin Man was tall, and he had all these munchkins running around. And the Tin Man also had a brain. It's just possible that that Tin Man thought he was better than the munchkins. It's just possible that that Tin Man was looking figuratively and literally down his nose at the munchkins. That happens sometimes when people have the right title, when people have so-called the right book knowledge, when they have the right degrees. They sometimes look down at others. Here's the danger. You know, that yellow brick road was winding right past the Tin Man. I bet there were some munchkins along the way that the Tin Man had looked down upon. Those munchkins over time saw that tin can that had the oil in it, knew that the Tin Man needed that oil, but they passed him by. Do human beings do that? You bet they do. When you treat people without respect and without dignity, when they get the opportunity to help you, they may pass you by. So realize that each one of us has a story. Each one of us has an experience that's different than yours. Be willing to learn that experience.
Lenora Billings-Harris makes exploring the sensitive and complex topic of diversity, inclusion, and unconscious bias a thought-provoking, yet fun and non-judgmental experience. Whether through keynotes, workshops, consulting, or coaching, Lenora Billings-Harris partners with clients to help them leverage diversity in order to increase employee engagement, customer satisfaction, leadership effectiveness, and bottom-line results. Lenora is a recognized authority. She's an author, and she was included as one of the 100 global thought leaders on diversity and inclusion by the Society of Human Resource Management. Additionally, Diversity Woman magazine named her as one of the top 20 influential diversity leaders in the U.S. Her award-winning diversity leadership research is recognized in academic journals internationally. She serves on the adjunct faculty of 2 business schools and is a past president of the National Speakers Association and the Global Speakers Federation. Lenora's clients span the globe as she's spoken in over 30 countries. Some of her clients include the American Embassy in Israel, Domino's Pizza, Ritz-Carlton Hotels, the American Society of Association Executives, PayPal, Disney, the University of Pretoria, and West Point.
When Dorothy was talking to the Tin Man, he said, I would be a much better Tin Man if I only had a heart. Be careful that as you develop your knowledge, that you also take this journey 18 inches down to your heart. Because the book knowledge is going to tell you some of the things that you can and should do in this area of valuing differences. Your book knowledge may give you some ideas on how to be more inclusive, how to get your managers and supervisors to be more inclusive, to be more supportive of the diversity efforts of Daimler. Your book knowledge might tell you that. But you see, we make the real difference when we interact with individuals. And when we're interacting with individuals, sometimes we're going to make a mistake. Sometimes we feel the mistake coming on before it even comes out of our mouth. But we know, oops, that's probably not the right thing to say or do. That's when we need a heart. Because you see, if we just get quiet enough, if we just tell our brain to take a break, our heart voice will tell us the right thing to do. Our heart voice will remind us that each of us is important. Our heart voice will remind us of the true meaning of Ubuntu. I need you because I'm better at being who I am when I allow you to be better at being who you are. And I can't do that if I'm not connecting with you. So let that heart voice speak. Don't be concerned about making a mistake. Guess what? You're going to make them. I've been doing this work, as I said, since '88. And every now and then, something comes out of my mouth, and the moment it's out there, I'm like, oop, that was not quite right. Let me give you an example. Just so that you really know how to relate this to your own experience. I was at a speaker convention. I go to them every year. So there are 3,000 of us in a hotel, and we're all professional speakers. Not too much listening going on. Anyway, several years ago at one of the conventions, because our conventions are over the weekend, because typically we're not working with clients over the weekend, one of the things that the organization does is they will allow any groups that would like to have religious services to have those, to organize those services, as long as it's not competing with the other aspects of the convention. And so Sunday morning at 7 a.m., most of the services are taking place. But there's one that takes place on Friday night. And I realized that, you know, I don't know much about the Jewish religion. And I would like to learn more. Well, since this was a convention of speakers and I'm friends with many of them, I thought, well, this will be a safe place to go. I can, because anyone can go to any of the services. I'll go to the Jewish service. Then that way, if I do something stupid, at least I'm around friends and it won't be too bad. You know, because do something stupid because I don't know any better. So I walk into a room about the size of this. I sit way in the back because I figure, you know, again, I don't want to be in front of people if I make a mistake. I sit way in the back. The service begins. Many of my friends come in. My girlfriend Joanne sits right next to me. And I'm enjoying the service. Then I happen to look over my left shoulder, and I see a table there. And on the table was bread, broken into small pieces, and what looked like wine. Oh, by the way, when I was raised by my grandparents, I was raised a Christian, a Baptist. So I'm looking at this bread and wine, and then I say to my friend Joanne, Joanne, is it okay for people who are not Jewish to take part later in the service in your communion? As the word was coming out of my mouth, I'm like, ooh, I can't grab that one back. So she didn't laugh too loudly, and she knew I was a diversity consultant. And after she, composed herself, she said, well, Lenora, we don't call it communion, but you are more than welcome to take part in that aspect of the service. Guess what? Saturday morning, the sun still came up. I didn't have any nasty messages under my door. No terrible tweets. Nothing bad happened. My point is this: you'll make mistakes. It's okay. That's called learning. Be willing to make mistakes and recognize those mistakes. Don't pretend you didn't know what happened when you do. Own up to it, because then other people will be willing to be authentically who they are when they're with you, and they'll make mistakes too. And then you can talk about it without judgment.
Hello, I'm David Heiner, Managing Director of Stretch Development Limited here in the UK. We're in London, England, at a conference, enjoying ourselves, and I've just heard Lenora give a presentation. What I particularly was impressed by was the way she tailored it to the needs of the audience and the organisation, meeting our needs as well as that of the organisations. But specifically, what I took from Lenora was how powerful she was. She is the most authentically feminine speaker I think I've ever seen in 12 years. She was confident, commanding, and quite obviously an authority on her subject. Don't hesitate.
In the beginning of the conference or the beginning of any of the big general sessions, usually someone will say, and just as a reminder, please turn off your cell phones or put them on stun, right? And what we do as baby boomers, when we suggest that, is we essentially are saying it's not okay for you to touch your cell phone while you're in session. Sort of like a teacher. Doesn't go over really big with Gen Y. So what I do in my sessions is take out your cell phones. Yes, please do put them on silent. But I hope that you're taking notes. And so it's totally okay for you to take your cell phone out and take notes, or you might want to tweet something. Go right ahead and do it. Now, this does two things. Number one, it shows them that I recognize what their need is. And number two, yeah, some of them are going to be doing email, but adults are going to do what adults are going to do anyway. So rather than make them feel guilty about it, make it okay. So it's those kinds of things that you won't know to even begin to do with your members in your meetings unless you have started connecting and engaging with them.
Okay. And hi, I'm Rob Massoud. I'm the president of the Ocean State chapter of PMI, and it was our pleasure to have Lenora speak at our April chapter meeting. I think what makes Lenora so special to all of us, those of us seen her before and now those have the pleasure of seeing her twice, is when we bring speakers to our chapter, we expect our speaker to take people where they aren't expecting to go. And that's kind of what makes us special. Lenora took it to another level. These people didn't know what was coming. I prefaced it, I set her up by telling that she was going to blow them away, and she did. She didn't let us down at all. I think they left knowing a lot more than they did about themselves before they came in, and I think that's what makes her a special person. So we loved having her here. We hope we'll get her back sometime, and thank you, Lenora, for everything you've always done for us.